part of the budget is, definitely what Avi was saying about setting the maintenance and everything he spoke about. It's a great time to also audit what you've done for the year and plan for the future. So auditing for the current year you're in, you want to make sure that you review your monthly financials, watch for variances every month, not just when you do the budget. But when you get to the budget, you want to make sure you capture everything that you had planned to do and see where you're off, so that you can plan for the future. Whether you're have a situation, a lot of buildings last year had situations with commercial income not coming in with the pandemic. So predicting, are we going to not be able to collect those kind of things? Are we going to be able to put in a different commercial person there, into a spot to collect that kind of income? So it's really a great time to review what you've gone through during the current year, so that you can plan for the future. We want to look at trends, variances. What can we be doing better? If we see something starting to go awry, is there a way we can control expenses, review contracts, negotiate them, do something like that to make sure we control expenses? There are a couple of different components when we're looking at a budget. There's a lot of expenses that we will call fixed expenses and variable expenses, although the variable expenses aren't as variable as you might think, because something like exterminating might fall into the variable expense, and you really don't want to cut some of those expenses too short either. We want to make sure we look at, your payroll, your insurance, your corporate taxes, your mortgage. Those are all considered basically fixed costs. When we're preparing a budget, we want to start with some uniform assumptions. So what we'll do is go out to different experts and make sure that we get the best advice on how to predict for the future on these expenses, whether it be insurance, what we think is happening in the industry, that kind of thing. So we'll try and get those assumptions, before we even start the budgeting process. The benchmark expenses are really the items that we want to make sure we have a good history on.
Uh-oh. Megan, we might have a difficulty hearing you. Hold on, Megan, I think that we lost you.
So while Megan's I guess
it was funny because I lost my signal, so it must be something that's going in the air, and we apologize, everyone. Avi, do you want to take over maybe on this
Sure.
until Megan?
Yeah, there we go. She's just I just didn't want to speak over her.
Yeah, understood.
Her gibberish.
This is technology. Unfortunately, it happens.
Yeah, it's all good. It is all good. So I wanted to I guess I had something to, I know Megan was talking about the benchmarking of expenses, looking at trends. We just going back to the predictable expenses as well. We're talking about payroll, insurance costs, corporate taxes, potentially, I think, the insurance, like we said, looking at those items as they happen. Also, I know we're talking about the budget process, but another big piece of the budget process is looking at your budget at every year as the year goes on. The working document I was talking about. Hey, hi Megan.
I'm back.
You're back.
You were back.
All right, I'll finish my point and I'll bounce it back over to Megan. That working document we were talking about at the beginning, about that being your document for the year, Megan brought up a great point. You set this budget, it may be right, wrong, or not, and you want to look at it every month and say, how are we doing? Payroll, payroll should have been a predictable expense, right? It was $100,000 for the year, or $120,000 for the year, should have been $10,000 a month. By March, April, if we're already blowing through half the budget, what's going on? Stop, raise the flag, call management company. what did we do? You know, that someone that, you know, and there might be a reason for it, but you know what? It's better to know about it in March instead of knowing about it of March of the following year and say, oh, how come that all happened? Oh, how come we don't have any money? Oh, it's because this happened. And that's the, you know, the work that has to be done together. You're working now to prepare the forecast, but then you have to, while you're in the year, we have to make sure that when you get those reports every month, you're taking a few minutes just to scan through those variances. Anything that jumps out at you at your next board meeting, just say, hey, I noticed payroll's out of whack. Is this something I don't know about? And this way you could kind of right the ship before it goes south. So with that, I'm going to go back to benchmarking with Megan.
Hi, sorry about that. I don't know where I cut off. So forgive me if I'm repeating.
It's the best part. It was the best.
Yeah. Well, repetition is good for a developing brain, said Jimmy Neutron. So utilities, energy, professional fees, real estate taxes. These are all the kinds of things we want to watch, you know, benchmarking, where we've been historically, where are we compared to our neighbor, things like that. While I mentioned taxes, the taxes just, I think it's important because it's one of the biggest numbers in a co-op budget, that the taxes are based on an assessed value times the rate. And the assessed value is going to be the lower of either the assessed value or the transitional value. And the transitional value is based on a 5-year average of the last 5 assessed values. So if you can track what I just said, you can figure out the taxes. Otherwise, they're very easily accessible on the New York City website if you're in New York City. There's other items that we want to make sure we look at, the maintenance expenses. And again, a lot of things we think are not necessarily fixed items, but they're almost fixed because there's items you're not going to want to get rid of. You're not going to be able to get rid of your cleaning supplies. You're exterminating your different contracts such as elevator or security. But these are items that are considered maintenance expenses. We do want to make sure that every budget, that when you're going through your budget process, you want to make sure to look at every single item as if it stands alone. So we wouldn't just want to see people put a flat 3% on all of their repairs and maintenance items and increase it, because that's not reality. You might have had something come up as a one-time item. You want to keep track of that as well. We actually like to make a lot of footnotes in our budget process because you want to make sure that you're giving as much information as possible when you're presenting to your clients to make sure everybody understands the process and what's included in those numbers.